Kirk Herbstreit coming to the defense of Kirby Smart and probably to the defense of ration and thinking. But let me tell you what happened. So over the weekend, the Buffalo Bills, where Jake Fromm is a reserve quarterback, played the Chicago Bears, where Justin Fields was just selected as a first-round draft pick and is right now a reserve quarterback behind Andy Dalton, who was a long-time Cincinnati Bengals starter. And so all of a sudden on Twitter, which is like the place where ideas go to die, it feels like, this discussion of Justin and Jake came up again. And Kirk Herbstreit pops in and has a take. His tweet was, "So ridiculous. This keeps coming up. Exclamation point. No chance any freshman dethroning the quarterback the year before led the Dogs to the Natty as a freshman. Obviously, Justin is a special player, but this argument is tired. Please stop this." We can't stop. Why would we stop? Why would we stop talking about things that are when people can get fired up about it and create clicks and do all this stuff? All right, so let's take a reminder of what was going on here at the time, what reality was, and why Kirk is correct in this case about this what is tired old criticism of Kirby Smart. So what happens is, coaches through the years have make mistakes along the way, and they are always remembered for those mistakes. That's what it is. Les Miles had his with quarterbacks, but Kirby Smart is always going to be criticized for what happened in 2018, not even 2017, but 2018. In 2017, no one discusses that he basically made what seems to be the right call, staying with Jake Fromm as a freshman and then rolling on through Atlanta to the Rose Bowl and then to play in the national championship game, which was also in Atlanta. Folks, also, I don't ever see anyone talking about how Urban Meyer let Joe Burrow go. I mean, Joe Burrow had one of the greatest single seasons in college football history. It was better than Trevor. It was better than Justin. It was better than Johnny Manziel. It was better than Tim Tebow. There was I don't know. Someone can, maybe Joe Namath, I don't know. But there's no better player for a single season than Joe Burrow was in 2019. I mean, he was that good at quarterback. Now, I will listen to debate, but going off the top of my head, I mean, Cam Newton was really, 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 really good. But they were saving themselves against Mississippi State on the road, as I recall. They won the national championship by 3 points or whatever it was against Oregon. Not the same thing. But what's happened is it's been cemented that you can criticize Kirby about this, and there is criticism to be had, but there's no nuance to be had. And you can't do nuance on Twitter. You can't do nuance on social media. You can't use reason because people have already decided what they think about Kirby Smart, and they're either black or white, and there's no gray allowed at all. The reality of what happened in 2018 is that Justin Fields had committed to Georgia in the middle of 2017, late in the year, kind of, not in the spring. Justin was coming on board assuming that Jake Fromm would not be the starting quarterback in 2017. So he thought Jacob Eason would be there in 17 and 18 and would leave. And the fight would be on, 16, 17, 18. Yeah. And so the fight would be who the starting quarterback would be in 2019 at Georgia. Because Justin felt like he could beat out Jake Fromm. Well, yeah, if you have a whole spring and summer and all this stuff, it wouldn't be some simple, beat out, but he's more gifted as a quarterback. But what happened at the time was that, Jake Fromm went from being a manager of the offense to starting to make plays as the season went on. when you went to December, Georgia wins the SEC championship, and really things to me sort of turned the corner for Jake at Georgia in the Rose Bowl. I mean, he played well against Auburn to some degree, but that was the run game. I mean, it was really the run game and the defense. But there's no question he played well in the Rose Bowl, and he played well enough to win the national championship against Alabama. No one was going to replace Jake Fromm as the starter. Injury could have. No one was going to replace Jake Fromm as a starter in 2018. What people are also skipping over is that, Justin stayed around the entire 2018 season, but there was a lot of development that had to happen. He did not know what was going on in the spring the way that he did by the time he got to Ohio State in 2019. I can tell you from experience, there is a huge difference between your freshman season of playing and your sophomore season of playing. It's not even, it's a massive jump. It's much easier, if you want to call it that. You're used to things. You're used to the speed of the game. You're used to college. So, Jake Fromm, who had at that point 14 starts, including ones at Florida or in Florida, at Auburn, in the SEC championship game, in the Rose Bowl, in the national championship game, was not going to be surpassed by Justin Fields, who had never played a down of college football. I do think that Justin should have played more. I do not think he should have been the starting quarterback coming into the season. I don't see how, why does it have to be that the debate is why didn't Justin start over Jake Fromm? Well, that very well could have happened and probably would have happened in 2019. You look at Jake Fromm's performance in 2019, Justin Fields would have been starting at some point. Maybe not at the beginning of the season, but certainly by the middle. Jake Fromm was having a hard time, and the Georgia offense was not clicking. So this people fall into their camps. Some of it's racial completely. Some of it is digging at Kirby. But the reality is, when you talk to people who were on the staff at Georgia in that 18 season, a lot of whom have spread out across the country, they would tell you that Justin felt pressure to try to win that job, but that it was asking so much of him to do that. Like personally, his expectations were really high for himself. It just was going to be hard to do. And the pressure came on in the spring, and I wrote about this, talking with people behind the scenes and so forth. It wasn't some sort of mystery that Jake Fromm was going to start. With that said, Justin played a lot as a backup. He played a lot as a backup when you think about it in games that mattered. Georgia, Tennessee, he gets in there in the first half, scores touchdowns. He did not play against Florida. That was probably on purpose. And the most critical play of Georgia's 2018 season was with Justin Fields with the ball in his hands, not Jake Fromm. So the notion that Justin didn't get a fair shake is irresponsible to say. The notion that Justin should have been able to come in on campus and just sort of fight his way to starting over a player who had started 14 games and won 12 of them is a little naive and seems like you'd have an axe to grind. And it's also also a disingenuous conversation because you'll hear people say, well, Dabo replaced the guy whose name I can't even remember right now with Trevor Lawrence. Bro, the guy wasn't good. And you're not playing in the ACC when you're playing at Georgia. And you can save the hate mail, but it's true. Come on. Kelly Bryant started against Texas A&M. They won that game by 2, and they went on to win the national championship that year, and it was because of Trevor. But they had the ability to maneuver him in. When were they going to roll Justin in there? At LSU against the Gators? When was the good time to do that in 2018? It's not how it works. It's not how it works at all. And honestly, Jake Fromm didn't play that bad in 18 until LSU. So why would you replace him? I mean, you're destroying whoever they played to open. I can't even remember off the top of my head. But this Georgia team in 18 came out and beat South Carolina, a team that was ranked, beat their skull in Columbia, and then kind of rolled on from there. These were the scores in 2018 for Georgia. All right. Now, if you think they should have gone with a backup quarterback, you tell me at what stage. They win 45-0 in the opener. They win 41-17 in the second game on the road. It could not have been hotter in Columbia. They win 49-7 against Middle Tennessee at home. They win 43-29. What you gonna pull them to? I mean, it's over. They scored 40 points in 4 of their first 5 games. It wasn't a Jake Fromm problem. The Jake Fromm problem was at LSU very specifically. He did not play well. Period. And then he came back and lit up Florida. So I think sometimes there are always going to be criticisms of coaches. And I think for Kirby Smart, there's criticism to be had. It's just that this is not the right criticism of Kirby. If Justin stuck around in 19 and started and didn't start, at some point during that season, then that would be a problem. But if my mother wasn't my mother, then she'd be. I mean, what are we talking about here? We can't do these non-reality based, things. It was what it was. Fromm was the starter coming into 18. There was nothing that happened, that would have displaced him in the 18 season, and he was not displaced. And Justin got a great move out of this. He got to go to Ohio State and have 2 really good seasons. He was a top 10 draft pick. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say after a while other than folks really just want to complain, and it gets annoying. The Lincoln Dog Post, we'll see you over on the website.